Hello everyone, welcome to the Mercury Virtual. Hope you are doing good. Today I am going to continue with your same module, that is a database design concepts, and the same chapter, that is chapter number 23, that is a XML. In the last class we have started with this chapter, that is XML. We have covered some topics of the XML. Now I am going to start or continue with the same chapter, that is chapter number 23, that is XML. So let's start with the previous class session, that is what we have covered in the last class, then move to today's topic, or can move to the next topic, that is application program, that is interfaces provide to the XML. So let's start with the previous class session. In the last class session, in the last class we have started with chapter number 23, that is a XML, that is extensible markup language that was not designed for database applications. That is, it is not for the database application, but it is used for the database administrator, that was not designed for the database applications. In fact, like the HTML on which the www is based, XML has its roots in document management. That is, HTML has a root, HTML has a data that is used for the database management, that is used for the HTML. That is the HTML on which the www is based. XML has its roots in document management and is derived from a language from structuring the large document known as the standardized markup language. That is a new language that is used, that is the SGML, that is a standard generalized markup language. However, unlike HTML and the HTML, XML is designed to represent the data. That is, unlike the HTML and the HTML that is used, XML is designed to represent the data. That is, XML is used to represent the data, or we can say how to design the data, or it is this language designed to represent the data. And it is particularly used as a data format when an application must communicate with another application or integrate information for several other applications. And whenever the XML is used in these contexts, many database issues arise, and how to manipulate that, how to query, and how to organize some data manipulation that is used, that is available in the XML data. In this chapter, we introduce the XML and discuss both the management of the XML data with database techniques and the exchange of data formatted as the XML document. So whatever the data technique, whatever the data that is available, that is used for the database, or that is used for the XML language. Now next is the motivation. We have covered about the motivation, that is what is the main motivation, or what is the main motto to use the XML, what is the main criteria to use the XML. So it is important to understand its root and document management, or to make the document management that is used as a markup language. The term markup refers to anything in a document that is not intended to be a part of the printed output. That is, a markup means that is not a part of the document output, that is not a part of the document that is used in the document management, that is a XML. The term markup refers to anything in a document that is not intended to a part or to be a part of the printed output. For example, a writer creating the text that will eventually be typeset in a magazine may want to make notes about how typesetting should be done. That is a markup language. That is, a markup means a format description of what document is contained, what part is markup, and what the markup means. That is, what is the markup means, what is the topic about the markup, and how many documents, how many contents are available for the markup language. Just as the database system evolved from the physical file processing to provide a separate logical view, markup languages evolved from specifying the instruction, that is how to print the various parts of a document, to specify the function of the content, and how to represent such files, that is how to represent the text that have a section headings, that have a motivation that will be marked as being a section heading, instead of being marked up to the text that is printed in the large font, large size, bold font. From this point of view of typesetting, such functional markup allows a document to be used, so that is represented within a markup language. So there are multiple markup languages that is available, like HTML, XML, HTML. These markup language also includes a tag. There is a tag that is used in the bracket, that is the opening tag and the closing tags, and these are usually enclosed in a pair. There is a tag, that is the opening tag, then the content will be arrived, then there will be a closing tag, that is a tag, and there will be a slash tag, that is a closing tag, that delimitates the beginning and the end of the portion of the document to which the tag refers. For example, the title of a document might be marked up as follows. This is the title, that is, or this is the example of the title tag, that is the title, database design or database system concepts, and the title will be closed. Unlike HTML. XML does not prescribe the set of the tags allowed, and the set may be chosen as needed by each application. So whatever the application, whatever the content that is used, that will be allowed to use the XML that contains the various tags. And this feature is the key to the XML major role in data representation and data exchange, whereas the HTML is primarily used for the document formatting. So whatever the document formatting, whatever the data that is available, that is used for the document formatting, that is the HTML. So this is one of the example. There is a university, the department name, building, then budget, then department close, then department, there is a department. So these are the various university example that is used in the database management system. This is the XML representation of the part of the university information. This is the instructor, then this is the instructor ID, that is the instructor unique ID. Then the instructor will be closed, then teacher teaches. For example, in a running university application, department course and instructor information can be represented as a part of the XML document. And this is used with the tags such as the department, course, instructor and the teaches. And to keep the example short, we use a simplified version of the university schema that ignores the section information for the courses. That is, there are multiple section information that is available about the courses. And these tags provide the content or the context for which each value or for each value and allows the semantic of the value that is to be identified. There are multiple identification of the value that is used for the semantic of the value that is identified. Then this is another example that we also discuss about the purchase order, then identifier, then purchaser name, address and the purchaser, then there will be a supplier, then again the name, address, then item list, then item, then identifier, and these are the various XML representation of the purchase order. That is the XML representation of the purchase order that is available in this one. And there are multiple XML formatting that is used for the representation of the exchanging the data between the organization, that is used for storing the complex structured information in the files. That is, what are the various criteria, or we can say the significant advantages that is used to exchange the data between the files. So it is used for the data recovery, that is used for the structured information that is used in the files. So what are the various advantages? First, the presence of the tags makes the message self-documenting. That is a schema that needs to be consulted to be understand the meaning of the text. Second, so that means our tags must be represented, must be self-documented, must be used in a self-documentation. Next, the format of the document is not rigid, that is the format is not available in the rigid format. For example, if some sender adds the additional documents such as the tag last access noting the last date on which the account was accessed, the receiver of the XML that is used as a tag. So this is used with the XML document, that is the format is available to the XML document. Now third advantage that XML also allows the nested structure. So it is also possible to use the nested structure in the XML. So XML also allowed the nested structure that is used in the XML. So this is another advantage. And the purchase order that is also available is the XML document. And the last one is finally, since the XML format is widely acceptable, a wide variety of tools are available to assist in its processing. So there are multiple tools that will be used for the acceptance, that will be used for the processing the database, processing the XML language. We describe several applications for XML data later in this chapter. Then we have also discussed about the structure of the XML data, that is what is the structure of the XML data, that is how the course will be root, or there is a root, there will be element that is used, there will be a nested structure that will be nested properly. So this is the element, that is a fundamental, that is a pair of matching start and the end tags and all the tags that appears between them. An XML document must contain a single root element that encompasses all other elements in the document, that is XML documents. This is a properly nested document, this is not properly document or nested document. This is the example of the course ID, that is how to use the course ID, that is how to use the course. There will be a course ID, then title, department name and the credit, that is how many credits are given for this course ID. Then university 1, then department name, building, budget, course. So these are the various nested XML representation of the university example. That is the one within the another. There are multiple categories of the data representation. Then we discuss about this example also, that is a university example that is used in the database management system, that is used for the database management, that is used for the representation of the data, that is used as a database structure, that is used for the database architecture. Then we have talked about this one, that is how to use the URL, that is also used. Then the XML document schema, that is how to use the XML document schema, that is how to represent them within the database. So database have a schemas which are used to constrain what information can be stored in the database. That is what type of information that can be stored in the database, or to constrain the data type of the stored information. In contrast, by default, XML document must be created with any associated database. So it may be used with any associated schema, that is a sub-element or the attribute. And we describe the first schema definition language included as a part of the XML standard, that is a document type definition, and the XML schema that is also replaced with the document type definition, that is a DTD. So then we also discuss about the DTD, that is an optional part of the XML document, that the main purpose is, or the main role of the XML is to use, how to use them, or how to gain the importance of the XML document. And each declaration is in the form of regular expression for the sub elements of an element. So whatever the element, whatever the sub expression, whatever the regular expression that is used, that will be available in the element. Therefore, in DTD, university element consists of one or more course, department, or the instructor element. That is the operator that is used, that is the pipe operator that used or that specifies the or, while the plus operator specifies one or more. This is again the example that is used, that is a doc type university 3 is the element of university, then department, then at least doc department. Now this is another example, that is university 3, then again the department, course, instructor, that is also used. Then we also talked about the XML schema, that is a schema that is used, used as a schema language that is used to represent the database management system, or that is used to represent the XML. That is, what is a schema, what is the, we can say, the structure of the XML document. And that is specified by an element with a tag, that is the access element, whose body contains the type definition. Then we also discuss about these keys, that is how to use them, and what are the various advantages, that is, or what are the various XML, what are the various benefits that is provided by the XML schema as compared to the, or as compared over the DTD, that is the data definition or data definition. Then we also discuss about the queries and the transformation, that is how to obtain the query, or how to manage the query, and how to transform them, that is how to transform the XML to the BSN, or XML to the HTML, or the HTML to the SGML. That is a transformation, that is transform from one markup language to the another markup language. So given the increasing number of applications that use XML to exchange, mediate, and store the data, tools for the effective management of XML data is becoming increasingly important. That is, the tools is also available, or tools are also available for the effective management of the XML. And in this section, we are also applying the querying and the transformation that can be combined into a single tool. In this section, we describe the XPath and the XQuery languages. So this is the XPath, that is a language for the path expressions, and is a building block for the XQuery, and the XQuery is a standard language for querying the XML data. So XPath is a language for the path expressions, and building block for the XQuery, and the XQuery is a language that is used for the XML language. So first of all, the XPath will come, then the XQuery will come, then XQuery, after XQuery, that is used for querying the XML data, that is a standard generalized language. Then the tree model of XML, not tree model, this is tree model of XML that is used in all these languages. This document is modeled as a tree with nodes corresponding to the elements and the attributes. Elements nodes can have child nodes, which can be sub-elements or the attributes of the elements. That is, correspondingly, each node other than the root element, there is a parent node which is a element. And the text content, or the text content of an element, can be modeled as a text node child of the element, and the element containing text broken up by interleaving the sub element can have multiple text note children that is used, that is a bold, underline, or we can say, and we can use any text within the tag form, and we can specify any words for making the for affecting the tags. Then there will be XPath that specifies the address of the XML document by means of the path expression, and the language that can be viewed as an extension of the simple path expression that can be viewed or that can be used in the object oriented and the object relational database. And the path expression is XPath is a sequence of the location steps that is separated by the slash. So it is used, or it is separated by the slash instead of the dot operator. So this is one of the example that is used, that is university 3 instructor name, then this is written these element, that is the name Srinivasan and the name brand and the name, and the expression that is used in university 3 instructor name and the text. And these are the various IDs, these are the various operator that is used with the built-in the operator. Then we next is the XQuery, that is also talked about, that is how to make the query or how to provide the query in the XML, that is done by the XQuery, that is developed by the W3C, that is developed by the XQuery as a standard query language for the XML. Then the expression that is used is the flour expression, that is a for, let, where, order by, and the return. And then we have to also talk about the joins and the various nested query, that is how to use a nested query, that is the one query within the another query. Then how to sort the result, that is used by the order by, that is the order by the $I name, then return instructor, then $I and the instructor. Then the functions and the type, that is how to declare the function, how to use the function, how to make the function, that is also visible, or that we can say also built-in function that is used with the string matching and the manipulation functions. These are the functions and the types. Then other feature, these are the other feature that is also available in this one, that is addition to these features. Now next is the application program interfaces to the XML, that is how to use the application program interfaces that is used with the XML document, that is available with the XML document, that is the application program interfaces to the XML, that is how to use the application program interfaces that is used with the XML, that is available with the XML. That is the next topic, that is the today's topic, that is how to use the application program interfaces to the XML. So with the wide acceptance of the XML as a data representation and the exchange format, software tools are widely available for the manipulation of the XML data. That is that there are multiple tools, or we can say whenever we use the wide acceptance of the XML, that is we are using the wide acceptance of the XML as the data representation and the data or exchange format. So there are multiple software tools that will be used. There are multiple software tools that will be used or for the manipulation of the XML data. That is how to manipulate the XML data. What are the various tools that is used for the manipulation of the XML data? And there are two standard models for the programmatic manipulation of the XML, each available for the use with a number of popular programming languages. So that will be used as a popular programming languages that is used with the XML. Both these APIs can be used to praise or parse an XML document and create an in-memory representation of the document. That is how to represent the memory, how the API will be used, that is how to parse an XML document. And they are used as an applications that deals with individual XML document. So whatever the individual document, whatever the individual XML document, that will be represented for the individual XML documents. Note, however, they are not suitable for querying the large collection of XML data. Declarative query mechanisms such as the XPath and the XQuery are better suited to this task. That is a better example or better mode, better tool that is used with the XQuery and the XData that will be used. That is the XPath and the XQuery that is more suited for the this task, that is to use the application that is to deal with the various collection of the XML data. And one of the standard API for manipulating the XML is based on the document object model. So one of the standard API that is used for manipulating the XML, that is how to manipulate the XML, that is based on the document object model, that is a DOM, that which treats the XML content as a tree. that is whatever the XML, whatever the content that is available in the HTML, that will be represented as a tree, with each element represented by a node that is known as the DOM node. So first of all, it is represented in the tree, and every node that is available, every content that is available, that can be represented by the DOM node, that is a document object model and the node. Programs may access the parts of the document in a navigational fashion beginning with the root. And the DOM libraries are available for most common programming languages, and are even present in the web browser. That is, the DOM libraries are available in the programming languages and is present in the DOM or web browsers, where they may be used to manipulate the document displayed to the user. And we can also use the Java API for the DOM to give a flavor of the DOM. So Java DOM API provides an interface known as the node, and the interfaces, elements, and the attributes which inherit from the node interfaces. And the next point is the node interface provides methods such as the get parent node, get first child, and the get next sibling to navigate the DOM tree starting with the root node. Then next is sub-elements of an element can be accessed by a name using the get element by tag name, which returns a list of all such elements with a specified tag name that is used with the individual element that is represented in the that can be accessed by the method that is item I, which returns the ith element in the list. And the attribute values of the element can be accessed by a name using the method that get attribute name. So this is the Java mode that will be used, that is represented by the element and the attribute. Then get parent node, then get first child, and the get next sibling. So these are the various interfaces, that is a various method that will be used, and the sub element can be accessed by a name, that is using the get element by tag name. Then the attribute name or attribute value can also be accessed by a name, that is get by the attribute, that is the get attribute and the name. And the text value of an element or the text value of an element is modeled as a text mode, which is the child of the element node, that is a child will be represented as an element node, and the method that is used with the text node return the text characters. And the DOM that is used, that is the document object model, that will be used for the XML document. And DOM can be used to access the XML data that is stored in the databases, and an XML database that can be built using the or with the DOM as its primary interface for accessing and modifying the data. However, the DOM interface does not support any form of declarative query. The second commonly used programming interface is the simple API for the XML, that is a SEX is an event model, that is a simple API for the XML, that is designed to provide a common interface between the parser and the applications. And this API is built on the notion of event handler, which consists of given or user specified function associated with the parsing events. That can be used for the SEX application that use the handler for event, that is used with the database applications, that is used for the database designing, that is used for the database manipulation of the language. And the second obtaining model that is also used as a SEX. So SEX generally requires a more programming effort than the DOM. So the SEX requires more programming than the more effort than the mode that will be used for the various applications, that will be used for the various database applications. And then the next is the storage of the XML document data. That is the next topic, that is how to store the XML data. Next is the storage of the XML data, that is how to store or where to store the XML data, that is the storage of the XML data. So many applications requires storage of the XML data. So most of the applications require there will be a storage of the XML data that will be required for the future purpose. One way to store XML data is to store it as a documents in a file system. So one of the important data, or one of the important concept to store the XML data is to store it as a documents in a file system. That is how to or we can say how to store it as in document, or as in document in the file system. So simply store as a Word file as a document in a file system, while a second is to build a special purpose database to store the XML data. So either we can use a document, either we can use a file for storing the XML data, either we can use the special purpose database that is used to store the XML data. Now another approach is to convert XML data into relational representation and store in the relational database. So either we can use the files, either we can use the special purpose database, either we can use the relational database or the relational representation and store in the relational database. And several alternatives for storing XML data are briefly outlined in this section. Now first point, or the first is non-relational data store. That is, the data will be stored in a files document, that is a non-relational data storage. And there are several alternatives that is used for storing the XML data in a non-relational data storage system. The first is the store in the flat file. So simply store in the flat file that will be available, that will be used to store the data in the XML, or that is used to store the data in the XML files. So since XML is primarily a file format, a natural storage mechanism is simply a flat file. And this approach has many of the drawbacks that is outlined in chapter number 1 of using the file system as the basis for the database applications. And in particular, it lacks the data isolation, atomicity, and the concurrent access. So whenever we use the file systems, simple file system, not the database file system, so that will be lacking, or there will be a lacking of the data isolation. That is the various properties of the transaction where properties of the data is lacking. That is, data isolation is lacked, atomicity is lacked, and the concurrent access and the security is lacked. So that works on the file. So whenever we store the data, whenever we work on the file for the XML, so that works on the file, make it relatively easy to access and querying the XML data that is stored in the file. Therefore, this storage format will be sufficient for some application that will be used for the data storage. Now, first is storage in the normal flat files. Then create an XML database. That is the next part is, or next category is either we can create the XML files, or either we can store in the XML database. So XML databases are the databases that uses the XML as their basic data model. That is, the XML database also used as a basic data model, that is used as a basic data model that will be used to represent the data model. And each data model that will be represented, and each data model that will be occupied by the data model that will be used, that will be represented by the database application, that will be represented by the database options that will be used to represent the database. So this allows much of the object-oriented database infrastructure to be reused while providing a strange or standard XML interface. And we can use the XML document with the XML query language that provides a derivative querying. Next is the relational databases. So first part is simply the file system, that is the database or XML data will be stored in the file, either in the data. Now next is the XML document or XML files are stored in the relational databases. So there is a great benefit to head in storing XML data in the relational databases, so that the data can be accessed from existing applications, that is available in the existing applications. Converting XML data into relational form is usually straightforward if the data were generated from a relational schema in the first place, and XML is used merely as a data exchange format for the relational data. However, there are many applications where the XML data are not generated from a relational schema, and translate the data into relational form for storage may not be straightforward. That is, the relational model is not straightforward. That is also used for the forwarding mechanism that is used for the data storage. That is not used as a data format. That is not used as a data manipulation language that will be used as a data storage. So converting the XML into relational form is usually the straightforward if the data was generated from a relational schema in the first place, and XML is used primarily as a data exchange for the relational model. However, there are many applications where the XML data are not generated from a relational schema. So there are multiple applications where the data exchange for the relational model, or where the XML data is not generated from the relational model, and the translating the data into relational form for storage may not be straightforward. In particular, nested elements and the elements that reoccur complicate the storage of the XML data in the relation format. So whatever the data that will be available, in the nested form, that can recover the or that can recur the complicated storage of the XML data in the relational format. And several alternative approaches are available, which we described earlier. So there are multiple approaches that is used. First approach is store as a string. That is, the XML documents are used, or XML document can store the string, that is a globe value, in the tuples in the relational databases. So we can store the string values in a tuples, that is in a row in a relational database. So XML string values or XML data can be used or can be stored as a string in the relational database, in the relational we can say the table that will be used to represent, that will be used to store the XML documents. For example, the XML document that is used in the figure 23.1 could be stored as a set of the tuples of a relation elements data, with the attribute data of each tuple, that is storing one XML document, one XML element that is used, that is department, course, instructor, teaches, in a string format. While the above representation is easy to use, the database system does not know the schema of the stored element. That is, they do not know the schema of the stored element. That is, what is the schema that is used in the stored element, or how to use the stored element that is used for the stored elements or database systems. So, in example that is used, that is a department element with the department name computer science, without scanning all the tuples of the relation and examining the string content. A partial solution to the problem is to store the different types of elements in the different relations. So this problem is that how to store the data in various tuples, because data is one and tuples are many. So how to store them, that it will be we can say that feature, or that we can say that advantage or that limitation will be enhanced, that limitation will be controlled by the database management system that will be used in the database management content. This is the problem can be solved to store the different types of elements in the different relations, and also store the values of some critical elements and attribute of the relation to enable the indexing. For example, the relation would be used as an attribute, or the relation would be used as a document, as a format that will be used to represent the data, that will be used to represent the multiple applications, that will be used to represent the multiple, we can say, the file that will be used as a relation to the that is used known as the indexing. Now, some database systems such as the Oracle support the function indices, which can help avoid replication of the attribute between the XML string and the relation attribute. And the above approaches that has a drawback, that has a large number of XML information is stored within the string. It is possible to store all the information in the relation in some of the several ways that we can examine next. That is a part of the next document. Now, next is the tree representation. So arbitrary XML data can be modeled as a tree and stored using a relation. So this will be used, that is the nodes, then ID, parent ID, type, label, value. That is the nodes have a different we can say the attribute, that is the ID attribute, parent ID attribute, type, and the label and the values. These are the 5 attributes that will be used for the tree representation. And each element and attribute in the XML data is given a unique identifier, and the tuple is inserted in the nodes relation for each element and attribute with its identifier. That is identifier of the parent node, type of the node, that is attribute is available, and the name of the element of the attribute, and the text value of the element of the attribute. So whatever the element, whatever the data that will be available, that will be used as an attribute for the data representation of the value or the format. If order information of the elements and attributes must be preserved, an extra information or extra attribute position can be added to the nodes relation to indicate the relative position of the child. That is, what is the relative position, how to represent the relative position. Now, map to the relation, that is how to map to the relation, or how XML elements are mapped to the relation. So in this approach, XML elements whose schema is known are mapped to the relations and the attribute. So whatever the schema, whatever the XML element that will be used, that will be matched to the that will be mapped to the relations and the attributes, that is XML elements. Elements whose schema is unknown are stored as a string or as a tree. So elements whose schema is not known, whose structure is not known, that can be stored as a string or as a tree. A relation is created for each element type whose schema is known for and whose type is a complex type, that is a that contains the attributes and the names or the sub elements, and the root element that will be used to represent, or that will be ignored in this step if it does not have any attributes. And the attributes of the relation are defined as follows. So all the attributes of these relations or elements are stored as a single valued attribute of the relation. So every element, every attribute of the relation of the element that will be used, or that will be used to store the data in the database management system. And if the sub element of the element is simple tree type, that is the sub element that is given is a simple type that cannot have attribute the sub elements, an attribute is added to the relation to represent the sub element. And the type of the relation attribute default to a string value if the sub element have a schema type that is corresponding SQL type to be used. Then otherwise a relation is created corresponding to the sub elements that is used in the sub elements part. Further, identifier attribute is also added to the relations that represents the element, and the attribute that is added only once if it has a multiple sub elements. And the attribute that will be used, that is added to the relations representing the element, and the attribute parent id is added to the relation representing the sub element. So whatever the parent id that will be used, that will be used to represent the sub element, that is used to identify, or that is used to store as the identifier of its parent element. And if ordering is to be preserved, an attribute position is added to the relation representing the sub elements. For example, if we apply the above procedure to the schema that will be used corresponding to the data, we get the following relations. So these are the following relations. So this is the department and ID, department name, building budget, and course, parent ID, course ID, department name, and the title and the credit. And the variant of this approach are possible. The next is the publishing and shredding the XML data. So XML can be used, or data in the relational database must be published, that is converted into XML form or export to the other application. Incoming data must be shredded, that is converted back from the XML to the normalized relational form and stored in the relational database. While application code can perform the publishing and the shredding applications or operations, the operations are now or are so common that the conversion should be done automatically. That the publishing can be done in an automatic way, so that the conversions, any conversion that is used to represent, that is XML into the document, that will be done automatically in the database management system. An XML-enabled database supports an automatic mechanism for publishing the relational data as an XML. The mapping used for publishing data may be a simple or the complex, and the simple relation or the sample relation to the XML mapping might create an XML document or element for a row of the table. And a more complicated mapping would allow a nested structure to be created. And the extension of the SQL with the nested query in the select clause have been developed to allow the easy creation of the nested XML output. And the mapping can also be or also have to be defined to share the XML data into the relational representation. For example, the XML for XML data created from a relational representation, the mapping required to share the data is straightforward. So whatever the data, whatever the mapping data, whatever the XML data that will be created from the relational representation, that is mapping to share the data in a straightforward inverse of the mapping that is used to publish the data. Now next is the native storage within the relational database. That is native storage, that is how to store the data in a native place with the relational database. That is the XML documents are stored in the relational database. Some relational databases supports native storage of the XML. Such systems store XML data as a string or in a more efficient binary representation without converting the data into relation model. So some supports the native storage of the XML, and such native storage of the XML also store the XML data as a string and in more efficient binary representation without converting the data into the relation form. A new data type, that is XML, is introduced to represent the XML data, although the C lobe and the B lobe data type may provide the underlying data storage that will be used as a mechanism for the underlying data mechanism. And the XML query language such as the XPath and the XQuery are supported to query the XML data. A relation or the relation with an attribute of the type XML can be used to store a collection of the XML document. So whatever the XML document that will be used, that will be stored the XML document in the XML files. And the special purpose indices are created to index the XML data. And the several database systems provide the native supports for the XML data, and they provide the XML data types and allows XQuery to be embedded within the SQL queries. This is the university, this is the department, then row, then department name, then computer science, then the department name, then building, then budget that will be used, then the row will be closed, and then next is the SQL and the XML. That is the what is the main, we can say, the criteria, what is the main difference, what is the main difference between the XML and the XML, or SQL and the XML. So since or while XML is widely used for the data interchange, structured data is still widely stored in the relational database. So whatever the relational database, whatever the data exchange that will be used, that will be available in the relational databases. There is often a need to convert the relational data to the data representation that is used to represent the data in the data storage. For example, the SQL XML representation of the department relation would have a XML schema with the outermost element department with each tuple that is mapped to the XML document. And this is a query that is used, that is a select XML element, that is a name course. Then these are the XML attribute, that is a course ID as a course ID, department name as a department name. And then there will be XML element, that is a name, title, then XML element, again the element, that is a name, credits, and the credits. And the query that is used for the each course, that is used as the XML document. Now next is the XML applications. That is an important topic. So let's take a break right now, then move to this topic, that is the XML applications. That is at where places the XML will be used, that is XML applications. So let's take a break, then move to this topic, that is XML applications. So come back from the break. Now let's start the session again. So the next topic is the XML application, that is what are the various applications of the XML, or where the XML is used, that is XML application. So let's start with the XML applications. So we now outline the various applications of the XML for storing the data, that is used for storing and communicating the data, for example exchanging the data and for accessing the web services, that is information resources. So we now outline the various applications or several applications of the XML for storing and communicating the data and for accessing the web services. So the first point is storing data with complex structures, that is store the data with the complex structure that is used to store the data that are unstructured or structured but not easily modeled as a relation. Consider, for example, user interfaces that must be stored by an application such as the browser. So whenever we use the user interfaces preferences that must be stored by an application such as the browser. There are usually a large number of fields such as the home page, security settings, language setting, and the display setting that must be recorded. So this topic is one of the important application is the XML stores the data with the complex structures that is used with a multi-valued attribute that is used as a list of the trusted sites. For example, a list of the bookmarks that will be used. Applications traditionally use some type of textual information to store such data. Today, a majority of such applications prefer to store such configuration information in an XML format, in an XML, we can say the format of the XML that will be used as an application to configure the information. The ad hoc textual representation use earlier required efforts to design and efforts to create the parcel that can read the data, that can read the file and convert the file or data into a form that a program can use. And the XML representation avoids both these steps. So these steps are avoided by the XML. XML based presentations or representation can now widely used for storing the document, spreadsheet data and the other data that are a part of the Office application package. The open application or the ODF, that is open document format, that is supported by the open office software suites as well as other office suites, that is the open office XML, that is the OOXML format, that is supported by the Microsoft Office suite, that are document represented it or that are the document representation that is standard based on the XML. There are two most widely used format that will be used for the editable document representation that is used, that is the OOXML and the ODF, that is the open database or open document format and the open office XML. And they are the two most commonly used format that is for the editable document representation. And XML is also used to represent data with a complex structure that must be exchanged between the different parts of an application, that is the XML. For example, a database system may represent a query execution plan, that is a relational algebra expression with extra information on how to execute the operation by using the XML. This allows one part of the system to generate the query execution plan and another part to display it without using the shared data structure. So it is used to share the data structure that is used to represent the data, that is used to represent the file, that is used to represent the various applications by which we can store the data, by which we can generate the data. So XML is also used to represent the database complex structure that must be exchanged between the different parts of the application. For example, a database system may represent a query execution plan, that is a relational algebra expression with the extra information on how to exchange the data. Now, next application of the XML, that is next application, that is how to or why to use the XML or where to use the XML. That is a standardized data exchange format, that is the next format. Next application. So XML based standards for data representation or for representation of the data have been modeled or have been developed for a variety of specialized applications, ranging from the business applications such as the such as the banking and the representation and shipping to scientific applications such as chemistry and the molecular biology. So these are also used as a standardized data exchange format for various applications for a variety of specialized applications that range from the business applications such as the banking and the shipping to the scientific applications. So it is used in the banking, it is used in the shipping to the scientific applications such as the chemistry, such as the biology. And the examples are as follows: that the chemical industry need information about the chemical, that is also provided by the XML. And in the shipping, whatever the carriers of the or whatever the carriers of the goods and the goods and the custom and the taxes that is also levied on the goods and the customs, that is also obtained, that is also carried the information from the format, from the data interchange format, from the XML format. And the next third example is the online marketplace in which the business can buy and sell the goods. Business to business market, that is requires information such as the product catalog including the detailed product description and the price information, product inventories, quotes for the proposed scale and the purchase order. For example, the ROSLET net standard for the e-application or e-business applications. And when we use the normalized relational schema to model such complex data requirement, that would result in a large number of relations that do not correspond the data that is directly to the object that is being addressed. Next application, next example is the online marketplace in which the buyer and the customer can provide the goods and the services, that is online. That is known as the B2B market transaction, that requires the information such as the product catalog, and the information that will be used that requires the information such as the product catalog including the detailed product description and the price information that is used. And next is the web services, next application, that is XML is also used in the web services. So application often requires data from outside of the organization or from another department that is used in the database application that is used in the same organization. That uses a different database. In many such situations, the outside organization or the database that will be used to represent the data in the application format, that will be used to represent the data in a format that is used in the database applications. In many such situations that will be used to store the data in the database applications. So that is used or that is willing to provide limited forms of information through the predefined interfaces. When the information is to be used directly by a human, organization provides web-based form that is used. That is, a web-based form is available in the HTML document that is used in the database exchange, that is used in the database content of the database applications. And that is also used for the database application, that is also used in the database concept that will be used, that is used in the content of the application, that will be used in the content of the various files, that is used in the various operator of the various content that is used in the database files. In effect, the provider of the information that defines the procedure when input and output are both in the XML format. The HTTP will be used, that is the HTTP will be used for the various computer, that is used for the various content. So in effect, the providers of the information that will define the procedures whose input and output are both in the XML format, and the HTTP protocol that is used to communicate the data with the data exchange, that is used to communicate with the data in the data exchange, that will be used to generate the data in the output, that will be used to maintain the output in the database management systems. And the simple object access protocol, that is the SOAP, that also defines the standard for invoking the procedure, that is using the XML to representing the procedure input and the output. So whatever the procedure input, whatever the procedure output that will be used, that is developed by the SOAP, that is a simple object access protocol. And that also defines the XML schema that is used for represent the name of the procedure, result status, and the indicators such as the failure or the error indicator. And the procedure parameter and the results are application dependent, that is used for the XML document, that is used for the XML SOAP headers. And the HTTP is used as a protocol or transfer protocol for the HTTP for the SOAP. But a message protocol or the message based protocol that is used, that is SMTP, may be also be used. And the site that is also provides such as a collection of the SOAP procedure is also known as the web service. And the web services that is available, that is a web service description language, that is a WSDL, that is a web service description language, that is a language to describe the web page service capability, that is used to define what type of capabilities, what type of content are available in the used to describe the service capability. And WSL provides the facilities that interface definition, or the definition provides a traditional method programming interface that specifying what functions are available and their input and the output. And there is a UDDI, that is also a standard for the universal description, discovery, and the integration, that is a UDDI that defines how a directory of the available websites may be created and how a program may search for the directory requirements. These are the various applications for the various XML applications. Now next is the data mediation, that is a comparison shopping is an example of mediation application. So whenever we do the shopping, whenever we perform the shopping, that is a mediator, or that is an example of the mediation, in which the data about the items, inventory, pricing, and the shipping costs are extracted from a variety of the website that will be used for the sale. The personal financial manager is a simple application in the context of a banking. Consider a customer with a variety of accounts to manage, such as the bank account, credit card account, and the retirement account. So there are many accounts that is a customer contains, so that is used to manage, that is also held by the, or that is also get the information or held by the XML. And this is also used, suppose that these accounts may be held at a different institution, that is used, providing the centralized management for all the controls of a customer is a major challenge. So whatever the major challenge that is used, that is centralized management. XML based mediation addresses the problem by extracting an XML representation that will be used of the account information from the respective website. So whatever the website that will be used, that is used to exchange the data. I'm just coming with it. This is one of the application that is XML is used in the bank account also, that is used to make the bank account, and this information may be extracted easily if the institution exports in a standardized XML format. So if the bank information is available in the XML format, so that will be made or that will be fetched easily as compared to the normal text, as compared to the normal document or the normal information. And so it is very useful in the XML. It is very useful in the, we can say, the financial institutions where the individual holds the accounts. This information may be extracted easily if the institution export in a standard XML format. For example, a web service, that is also example of the XML document. For those that do not, wrapper software is used to generate the XML data from the HTML web pages. So this is the software that is used, that is a wrapper software that is used to generate the XML data from the HTML web page that is written by the website. Wrapper application needs constant maintenance since they depend on formatting details of web pages which change often. Nevertheless, the value provided by the mediation often justifies the effort that is required to develop and maintain the wrapper. So the value that is provided by the mediation, that is also requires, or that is often requires, the justification of the efforts that is required to develop and maintain the wrapper. That is, the wrapper is a software. Once the basic tools are available to extract the information from each source, a mediator application is used to combine the extracted information under a single schema. So whatever the schema, whatever the information that will be available, that is used to extract the information under a single schema. And this may require the further transformation of the XML data from each site, since different sites may structure the same information in a different way. They may also use the different names for the same information, for example, account number and the account ID, or may even use the same name for different information that will be used for the different information. The mediator must decide on a single schema that represents all the required information and must provide the code to transform the data between the different representations. And such issues are discussed in more detail in section 19.8, and that is already discussed in section 19.8, that is used in the database management system in the context of a distributed databases. Then XML query languages such as the XSLT and the XQuery plays an important role in the task of transformation between the different XML representations. So the XML query language is also a part of the XML representation that is used in the XML queries. Now next is the summary, that is summary of this chapter. And the first point is, like the HTML is on the on which the web pages is created, on which the web is based, the XML is derived from the HTML. So like the HTML is derived from the web pages, the XML is derived from the HTML, that is standard generalized markup language, and this was originally intended for providing the functional markup for web documents, but has now become the de facto standard data format for data exchange between the applications. So first of all, it is used as a markup for the web document, that is used for the web document for the web pages, but now it becomes a de facto standard data format for the data exchange between the applications. So it is now used as a data application format by which the data is available for the data application, for the data exchange between the element between the application. Next point is, XML document contains data or contains elements with matching starting or with the matching starting and the ending tags that is indicated. So XML document have a syntax that is start with the, or that is open with the opening tag and end with the ending tag. And this choice may be used, that is nested within them, that the element are nested between them, and the choice between the representing information attributes and sub elements is often in the context of the data representation. That is, the XML document must contain the element that is enclosed within the opening tag and the closing tag. Then elements may have an attribute of the type ID that stores a unique identifier for the element. And that elements may also be stored, or may also store the references to other elements by using the attributes of the type ID ref. And the attributes of the type ID ref can also store a list of the preferences. And document optionally may have their schema specified by a document type, that is a DTD. Then the DTD also specified what elements may occur and how may be nested and what elements may have. Although DTD are mostly widely used, but there are some limitations of the DTD, that is a document type definition or document type declaration, and the we can say the STI is also more better than the document type declaration, that is a DTD. Then the next point is, XML schema is now the standard mechanism for specifying the schema of XML document. So whatever the schema that is used, whatever the standard that is used, that will be used as an external standard that will be used as the schema of the XML document. So XML schema is a mechanism for specifying that is this is a schema of the XML document. It provides a large set of basic types as well as the construct for the creating complex types and specifying the data, specifying integrity constraints, including the key constraint and the foreign key constraint. Then the next point is XML data can be represented as a tree structure. So whenever we represent the data, that can also be represented as a tree structure with the nodes that correspond to the elements in the attributes. And the nesting of the elements is reflected by the parent-child structure of the tree representation. So this is represented by the parent-child relation, that is how to generate the table, how to maintain the table, how to use the table with the data exchange, that is the parent-child relationship is also represented in the XML data, that is represented in the tree representation. Then the next point is path expression can also be used or can be used to traverse the XML tree structure. So whenever we use the path expression, that is also used to traverse the XML tree structure. Then the XQuery language is the standard language for querying the XML document. So just like a SQL, there is a XQuery language that is used to manipulate the queries that is available in the XML data. It has a structure not unlike SQL, while we can say the flour will be used, that is a for, let, where, order by, return. That is a flour will be used in the XQuery format. And the next point is the DOM and the SEX API are widely used for programmatic access to the XML data. So we can use the two formats, that is the DOM and the SEX, that is the application programming interface, that is widely used for programmatic access to the XML data. And these APIs are available from a variety of programming languages. These are the we can say the formats, these are the interfaces that is available from a variety of the programming interfaces or languages. Then XML data can be stored in any of the several different languages, and this can be also stored in different file system or in the XML databases which use XML as their internal representation. So XML is also used, or it can be used to represent in the internal representation. The next point is XML data can be stored as a string in a relational database. This can be used in a string as a string in a relational database. Then XML is also used in the variety of applications such as the complex type, such as the exchange of data between the organizations, standardized form, data mediation, and the web services. And it also provides the remote services that is used for the call reference with the XML as a part of the mechanism. Now next is the review terms. These are the various terms that is used in this chapter. These are the practice questions that is available in this chapter. This is the query that is given in the XPath, that is our schema, this one. And this is a theoretical question, that is show by defining or giving a DTD how to represent the known INF books relation from a section, this one, using the XML, and write the query. That is the next question. Then consider the XML data that is shown in the figure 23.3, that is also used in the data format. And given a query in the X query to flip the nesting of the data from the exercise 23.10. And given the DTD for the XML representation of the information that is available in the document type declaration. And next is the XML schema representation that will be used for the data representation. And give a relational mapping of the XML purchase order schema that is illustrated in this one using the approach described in this one, and how to remove them and how to remove the redundancy in the relational schema. And next is the write the query in the SQL or the XML to convert the university data from the relational schema so that they may be used in the earlier chapters to the university 1, university 2, and the XML schema. And these are the various tools that will be available for the XML in the public domain, and this is the website that is used, that is the w3.org, that is used to exchange the data, that is how the web pages that is described in the database that will be used in the database schema. These are the bibliographic notes that is available for this chapter. Now next is chapter is a chapter number 20 or part number 5, that is advanced topics, that is the advanced topics of the database, that I'm going to start in the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class, that is part number 5, that is advanced topic. That's overview of the advanced topics, and then moves to the chapter number 24, that is the advanced application development. So that's all for today's session. Thank you so much everyone for listening me. Now if there is any doubts, any queries, any suggestions, any clarification, any face to face, or we can say the talk to talk meeting, so you can ask the doubts from me. So thanks a lot everyone. In the tomorrow's class, I'm going to start with the part number 5, that is advanced topics, that is chapter number 24, that is advanced application development. So that's all to the today's session. Thank you so much everyone. Bye bye.